Hey, welcome back to another episode of Talking Points. Today we're going to be talking about Tonka. And now when Hasbro bought Tonka in 1991, one of the things they did was start promoting it with their own brands in-house. And by 1992 there were actually G.I.Joe brands. Now these were the smaller 1/64th sort of Hot Wheels scale toys, and we won't be talking about those today, but we will be talking about what came out in 1993. Which were the 1/18th scale vehicles. Now, there were 4 of them: the G.I.Joe Striker, the MP Pickup, and the Steel Brigade Military Combo, which was 2 vehicles in one package. Let's take a look. Now, the first vehicle we're going to be looking at is the G.I.Joe Striker. This joins a long line of proud vehicle traditions like the Awe Striker, the Eco Striker, and the Night Striker in being a Striker vehicle, but there's no adjective on this one, it's just plain Striker. As you can see, it's based on a Humvee, and it's actually my favorite of the 4 because this is the most like a G.I. Joe vehicle. And like some of the best G.I. Joe vehicles, there is a little hidden feature in it with these pop-up missile launchers that have some lights and sirens, sort of your standard 90s array of sound effects. But I do like that the LEDs sort of rotate in a pattern there. And when you lift up the missile pods, you get an extra 2 seats. Now, given the look of this one and its features of the lights and sounds, if I were to integrate this into my normal line, I think this would be a good spot for some Sonic fighters. You know, they only had Ford America and the Apache, and most people aren't really thrilled with the Apache, so, you know, it doesn't hurt to give them an extra vehicle in their arsenal. I should point out, however, that the seats in the back aren't the best placement, because when you have figures in there, you can't close the missile pod all the way. It just kind of hits their heads, so, you know. Something to be aware of when you're setting up your dioramas and displays, or, you know, playing, which, you know, we're adult collectors, we don't do that. The next vehicle is the G.I. Joe MP Pickup. MP for, obviously, military police. Also has lights and sirens, but as you can see, this is just more your standard truck body. And a little bit of electronics added in the back. Little fun fact, there's 2 AA's that fit in the back there, but if you do manage to pick this up and open it up, you might see this little square inside. This kind of fit down in there, so when you could demonstrate it inside the packaging, the lights would work, but this sort of bypassed the need for AA's and used button cell batteries, so that's kind of fun. The tailgate on this one is probably the commonly missing piece, but even without that, it's still kind of a fun truck. As you'll notice, though, there's a Steel Brigade logo in the back, which makes this a Steel Brigade vehicle. And we have precious few of those. Gotta take advantage of that. Alright, the next set is the Steel Brigade Military Combo. This was a twofer. Now all these vehicles came in your standard Tonka cardboard packaging. It doesn't have really a G.I. Joe logo, it's just sort of written into the name. But it's more prominently Tonka vehicles, so I can understand if people don't necessarily consider this part of the Real American Hero collection. I kind of do, but, you know, I also think we have a need for, you know, this bulldozer or a dump truck. Kind of gets that Corps of Engineers specialty going. But yes, this was a 2-pack. You got both the vehicles in this one box. Let's take a look at one at a time. The thing to note about these sets is that this 2-pack used much older molds. You can see even the truck looks more 70s or 80s, and these molds had been in use for several years by this point. You can also see the pressed metal molding isn't as elaborate as, say, the MP Pickup. It's just a lot more flat planes. For some reason there's this CB logo on both of the vehicles, as well as the Steel Brigade, which kind of indicates that the Steel Brigade has its own distinct units within their brigade, which is kind of a neat thought, never really elaborated upon. You can see the bottom, there's no, truck gearing like the MP pickup has. So it's definitely older style. The dump truck, and obviously the dump does work. And we do have some room for people in the front. And given that this is another Steel Brigade vehicle, it's pretty obvious who goes in there. Gonna be a Steel Brigade day. Kind of fun. Kind of fun. Obviously, there's nothing too elaborate about this set. And then lastly, we have this Bulldozer. It is sort of a little bit of gearing, so you can, adjust ever so slightly the bulldozing. It's a tracked vehicle. The tracks are probably commonly missing on this one. But as I said, these molds were in use for several years. I actually looked on eBay and found an old rusted out earlier version of this vehicle. It's the kind of thing that had so much wear and tear on it you kind of thought you might get tetanus just touching it, but the treads were intact. So I was able to pop them off the old one, pop them on my new one, and, toss out the older vehicle. Once again, Steel Brigade and the CB logo. Kind of fun to see the reversed American flag there, where we have the proper orientation on the other side. And again, Steel Brigade vehicle. So, very obviously, a Steel Brigade driver. So there we go, 4 very unique, kind of fun G.I. Joe Tonka vehicles. It's nice that they all have this sort of uniform olive drab on it, so it is more of a cohesive unit in the years where military realism wasn't exactly at its peak in the line. So I do think this is worth picking up. You can usually find these relatively cheap, under $50 per vehicle. And if nothing else, I would recommend picking up that Striker, because that is an honest-to-goodness military vehicle, G.I. Joe colors, with some nice G.I. Joe-esque hidden features in it. Well, we hope you enjoyed that look at the Tonka G.I. Joe vehicles. We may revisit the smaller sets in a future Talking Point episode. Let us know what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe. Gets us those views, gets us motivation to do more of these. See you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of Articulated Points. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about some of the toys featured in this episode or want to follow us on social media, links are in the description below this video.